Warning, this episode contains brain food that will lead to improved emotional and social intelligence. Hello and welcome to our new short format servings of consciously prepared brain food designed to improve your mental fitness. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen, your host. For more than 12 years, we've been proudly and consistently crafting harvesting happiness and sharing it with you. Each week, we spotlight diverse thinkers and doers who are contemporary trendsetters and change agents devoting their lives to creating a better world in which to live. We invite you to listen up and change the way you think about human happiness. Our award-winning content is fresh, optimistic, and purpose-driven media that promotes well-being from the inside out. Alrighty then, let's dive in. This episode offers psychosocial education designed to inspire and motivate our listeners. The information provided does not constitute a therapeutic relationship nor a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, call 911, go to your nearest emergency room, or for listeners in the United States, text 988 for the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me on today's show, where you will learn about life satisfaction, the next frontier of happiness. My guest today is Dr. Jennifer Guttman. She is the author of Beyond Happiness, The 6 Secrets of Lifetime Satisfaction. Dr. Guttman received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Long Island University. Her approach fuses traditional cognitive behavioral therapy techniques with her own core methods, which have been developed and refined through 30 plus years of personal interaction with her clients. Jennifer combines these innovative methods, and her unparalleled empathic abilities has enabled her to have a profound impact on thousands of patients from diverse walks of life. And today we've got Dr. Jennifer Guttman in the house. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me here.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation because we always talk about no. Happiness is not really what we're talking about.
That's right. It isn't. Happiness is a fleeting emotion. It's not sustainable.
Not sustainable, and kind of like the byproduct of doing something else.
Yes, that's exactly right. It is a fleeting emotion that comes, like ambushes us because, we got a text that put a smile on our face, or we saw a child smile, or a puppy do a really cute thing. And in that way, you're right. It's a byproduct of something else, not within our control. And when we're looking for it to be a sustaining feeling, then we end up feeling like we're failing at it.
Let's talk about why we should focus on satisfaction, and that being satisfied with our lives versus the goal of happiness.
The problem is that happiness as a sustaining emotion is a misconception. And even if you look back as early as the Declaration of Independence, in the Declaration of Independence, it literally says we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so it's not right. And so it's not surprising then that you have what you're talking about, exactly all these yellow smiley faces, right? Then everybody's peddling happiness if it's in the Declaration of Independence, So then there's influencers and books and everybody grabbing at this idea that, well, if it says in the Declaration of Independence, be happy, then we should all be happy. So then I have thousands of clients coming into my office over the past 30 years saying, I'm failing at being happy. And my response to that is, but you can't fail in an emotion, and you wouldn't come in here telling me that you're failing at being sad. And right now,
no, some of us are quite good at it.
Right,
epically sad.
Exactly. And we're in the middle of a mental health crisis in this country, with like 60% leaps in the rates of depression and suicide among adolescents, 27% leap in the rates of depression and suicide among adults. And it's because people are despairing, thinking that they are chasing something that they can't ever achieve in any kind of sustainable way. We need to figure out what to guide people into replacing happiness with. And my answer to that is satisfaction. And in my book, I give 6 secrets that are techniques that people can use in order to achieve satisfaction, which is a sustainable emotion. It's a bedrock, middle of the road emotion that you can experience. And it's not a fleeting emotion like happiness or sadness or despair or any of the other emotions that are not sustaining.
And when we look at what satisfaction means, it's like, think about when you have that right meal that, fills your belly and you're like, I'm not hungry, I'm not full, I'm just right, that tasted good, and I'm good, right?
It's like contentment, a feeling of peace. It's like when you feel content, you feel peaceful, you feel like, I talk to my clients about saying, when you want to just say, like, I feel fine, I feel okay, I feel content, I feel at peace. Those are words that, it's a different way for your brain to look at what it's chasing. And it's very liberating for your brain to chase something that's very realistic. So when I say to my clients, let's put a moratorium on the word happy, and instead of looking at, okay, I want to be happy today, tell yourself, I just want to feel content today. I just want to feel satisfied today. I just want to be able to go through my day today. And if somebody asks me how I'm doing, I want to be able to just say fine. Your brain can light up on those words and all of a sudden feel like, that's achievable. I can do that. I can achieve fine. I can achieve content. It's like when you tell your brain in the morning, I'm going to be happy by the end of the day, that your brain's like, whoa, wait, yeah, I don't know. That's a tall order.
So what I'm hearing are a couple of things: that you're an advocate for good enoughness.
Yes.
Lowering expectations.
Yes. Managing them.
Or
yes.
managing them. Managing, that's probably a more appropriate term. Managing our expectations and being okay with being okay.
Exactly. Being okay with being okay. Yep.
So in your book, Beyond Happiness, The 6 Secrets of Lifetime Satisfaction, you have got a treasure chest that I know that I'm eager to hear what those 6 secrets are.
Yes. So they are behaviors that everybody can relate to or struggle with. I've never met anybody that isn't like, oh, yes, I can relate to one or some or all of these. And they are avoiding assumptions, reducing people-pleasing behaviors, making decisions, facing fears, closing out tasks, and active self-reinforcement, which is like self-care. And for each one of these techniques in the book, I give homework assignments that are easy to do in the comfort of your own home to help you get used to implementing these in the course of your daily life, so that you are on the road to being satisfied in a daily way.
So when we talk about avoiding assumptions, how do we do that? Exercise number 1.
Okay. We all make assumptions all the time. And I make assumptions, and this is my brand. I do it all the time, and I still struggle with assumptions. Assumptions is when you think about it, when we're texting with somebody and we think that they're mad at us, and then we know we shouldn't push send on that last text, and we do it anyway. And then it's a bridge too far. And it becomes a situation that is hard to recover from with that friend. That's because we're making assumptions that that person is mad at us without enough evidence. And another example would be, one of my clients had sent out a group text to a bunch of her friends inviting them to a party, and one of them didn't respond. And she thought that friend was angry with her. But it turned out that friend was on an airplane going to a business meeting, and that's why she couldn't respond. That particular client was able to restrict, peppering her with a whole bunch of other texts asking if she was angry at her and all that. And so because of that, there were no social consequences. But she did go into a thought spiral of all sorts of assumptions about what might be happening. Assumptions are what we think we should feel, like happy, or what we think people are going to say, what we think people are going to do. They're guesses that we make about other people's behaviors or other people's lives. We see it in how we respond to social media as well, where a post will go up and we make an assumption about the fabulous life we think somebody's leaving. And we add in the before and after for the post with a whole bunch of assumptions. What we need to do instead is hit the pause button and wait and see if you can actually come up with enough evidence to support the assumption you're making to convince a jury of your peers before you act on any of these assumptions.
I love this. Dial back the hair trigger response, which means that we learn to self-regulate, it can be a challenge, right? Because we have these visceral, immediate responses to things that happened around us based upon our thoughts, not facts.
Exactly. We're acting on our thinking and our fears and our anxieties instead of what we actually know, instead of actual evidentiary information. And just because you think something doesn't make it so.
That's true. And feelings as well. Thoughts and feelings are just thoughts and feelings. That's it. They're not facts.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Moving on to reducing people-pleasing behaviors, because there are a gajillion people pleasers out there in the world.
Yes. And a lot of times when I talk about reducing people-pleasing behaviors, people say to me, you don't want me to be a good friend. And that's not true. I do want people to be good friends. What I'm trying to get people away from is rescuing other people or putting their needs behind everybody else's. An example would be one of my clients, her mother was going into the city to clean her apartment for her and do her laundry. And her mother felt super underappreciated and undervalued. And she would tell her daughter that. And I advised her daughter to have a conversation with her mother about it. And so she said to her mother, you know what? I'm very happy to tell you when I need your help with anything, but I really don't need you to come into the city to do acts of service for me. Instead, I'd rather have you come into the city. Let's go to museums. Let's go to the movies. Let's go out to dinner. And since then, the relationship has been far better. Now, that's an example of a young woman who has great communication skills, and not everybody can communicate that effectively. But sometimes what it comes down to is just saying yes to fewer requests that are being made of you, or sometimes saying no, or editing a request that's being made of you, or delegating a request that's being made of you. Sometimes you may not know whether you want to do something that somebody's asking you. And I have something that I call a resentment check-in. What I recommend to people is... I coined the term and people are like, oh, I love that. What I recommend to people is somebody makes a request of you and you're not sure if you want to do it or not. So what you do is you check in with yourself and you say, okay, if this was never going to be reciprocated again and I was never going to be appreciated for having done this task, how do I feel in my body about thinking about that? Do I get a twinge anywhere in my body? And if you get a twinge somewhere in your body thinking that it's not going to be reciprocated or valued, then maybe you want to think about editing or delegating that request, or even maybe saying no. If, however, you think about that and you don't get a twinge anywhere in your body, then I say, okay, go ahead and do it. Do what the person is asking of you.
I love this, the resentment check-in. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we will continue with Dr. Guttman about the 6 secrets of lifetime satisfaction that's in her book, Beyond Happiness. To connect with Dr. Jennifer Guttman, please do so at guttmanpsychology.com. You can find her pretty much everywhere in the social media world. On Facebook, she is Jennifer Guttman Psychologist. On Instagram, Guttman_psychology. You can also find her on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Let's take that pause. We'll be right back. Hang on just a minute. Before we take that pause, let's talk about what it really means to live life on your own terms and in your own authentic way. In my humble experience, feeling empowered to make positive choices, eliminating negative external influences, and taking good care of my body and mind all help harvest greater happiness and create a contented life. These actions pay off in a big way. Way offers a complete hair care solution that promotes fuller looking, healthier feeling, and happier hair for everyone. Fine, medium, or thick hair, Way has got you covered. For the past several months, I've made Way an integral part of my self-care routine for flat, limp, and dull hair. I'm seeing and feeling shinier and bouncier tresses. This makes me super happy. My newest favorite is Way's best-selling hair oil that smooths out the frizz, seals split ends, and keeps color from fading. Regardless of your hair type, Way's hair oil will rejuvenate your tresses to be healthier and more vibrant, not to mention smell incredible with notes of violet, gardenia, ylang ylang, and white musk. Not sure of your hair type? Go to way.com and take their hair quiz to find out which way works best for you. Way Products helps to improve overall hair health with beauty-boosting ingredients that support thicker, shinier, beautiful-looking locks. Go to theouai.com and use code HH for 15% off any purchase. That's theouai.com, code HH. Now let's take that pause. We'll be right back. Each day we have the intellectual freedom to be happy or the liberty to be miserable, regardless of external circumstance. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, urge them to seek professional support because good psychological health is vital in achieving a satisfying life. Visit harvestinghappiness.com for psychosocial educational resources to boost emotional and social intelligence. Like what you hear on Harvesting Happiness? Sharing is caring. Pay it forward by spreading the word to your tribe through social media. Find us at Harvesting Happiness on Facebook and me at Lisa Kamen on Twitter. And we're back continuing the conversation with Dr. Jennifer Guttman. We're talking about life satisfaction and the next frontier of happiness. Let's get back to it. Dr. Guttman, let's go on to the next secret, which is facing fears.
Facing fears, yes. So facing fear, I mean, it's scary for all of us. Nobody is exempt from, the fear that it takes to doing something that you struggle with. But when you face down something that you're avoiding, it can actually propel you forward in life. For example, it could get you to ask for promotion at work. It could get you to apply to graduate school. I have a client she was in investment banking and she really was not content with her life at all. What she wanted to do was actually be a social worker, but was terrified of making a career change like that. And also of even telling her parents that she wanted to do that. But in the end, she decided that if she wanted to live a satisfied and contented life, she needed to make that switch. And she did it. And now she is so much more satisfied with her life as a social worker, and her parents came along. So, and what that's done is it's given her the confidence and competence in her life to continue to face other fears in her life that will, move her along to be more satisfied in other areas of her life. When you face fears, it doesn't matter that's an example of a large fear. It doesn't matter how small or large the fears are that you're facing. I'm certainly not talking about like running into traffic. What I'm talking about more is like, we all avoid making a phone call. We all avoid filling out a form. We avoid a lot of things. And each thing that we avoid, it haunts us. And when we do them, we get a sense of confidence or competence. And so when each one of these fears that we face, making a phone call that we're avoiding, filling out a form, they compel us to face the next fear in a hierarchy of fears. And with each one of those, we get a more feeling of effectiveness in our lives and self-respect, and all of those things help with a sense of overall satisfaction.
What about running the thought experiment? Like when confronted with a fearful situation, to think about what's the worst thing that could happen if this doesn't work out, or I fail, or whatnot. Like, in order to take a foot and dip into the fear, we have to have some sort of, in my view, some sort of bracket that says, okay, we can go do this because we've already kind of planned out the worst thing that could possibly happen, which is failure.
I mean, yes. I mean, there is. I think that is necessary, and I also think it's important for people to remember that failure is an interesting term because when you're engaging in an activity, there's always the option to pivot. And if you pivot and have the flexibility of mind to free yourself up to not being so self-critical, then maybe there's an opportunity to pivot or change course a little so that you may not be getting the exact desired outcome that you had originally been looking for, but maybe something that bears some semblance of your desired outcome. I think it depends on how rigid you are with what you were originally looking for. So I talk in my book about looking for doors, and when you are facing a fear or making decisions, that it's important to have the openness to recognize that a lot of what we're doing in life is making guesses. And since we're making guesses, we should have openness to look at reversibility and change as a positive thing.
I agree completely. Let's move on to the next point, which is decision making. And this is where many of us are challenged to make a decision, to take a stand.
Yes. So, and the reason that a lot of us struggle with decision making is because we believe that there's a right or wrong decision and that it's binary and that it's not reversible. And that's a problem, particularly when there are so many decisions people have to make in life. We have to decide what school to go to, what job to take, whether to move in with a significant other, whether to keep a job, change a job. And what we need to remember, as I just mentioned, is that decisions are guesses. There's no right or wrong decision. We're all just guessing, and nobody's guessing better than anybody else. And because they're guesses, we can change course and we can pivot. And by and large, most decisions are reversible. We can ask, for help from a few valued people in our lives when we're making decisions, but a lot of people get into opinion shopping among everybody looking for a consensus before they make a decision. But the problem is that ultimately the decision really needs to come down to you. And if you look at it as a guess, you can recognize that people have many careers over the course of their lives. So if it doesn't work out, change course. People, they change schools. If something doesn't work out, change course. And I think that it's important to remember that. One of my clients, it was an empty nester, and he had gotten a lot of feedback that he needed to put his house on the market. It was too big. He was rattling around in it. And so he did put his house on the market and to try to rent a townhouse. And while he was walking around his house one day, he realized that was a really authentic decision for him, even if it was an authentic decision for the people who had been advising him. And he made the very brave decision to pivot and take his house off the market. And that felt much better to him. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that have only our fingerprint and our DNA. So the decision has to come down to us in the end.
And when we talk about decision making and the ability to course correct, that ties into hardiness, resilience, the ability to bounce back. Okay, so you bumped your head or bumped yourself going down that road, but you dial it back and go explore another option, right? That that flexibility of being able to be malleable in your own life, I think, is part of what you're describing.
100%. And how decision-making and facing fear work together is that you become more resilient the more fears you face and the more decisions you make, and the more that you can see that you can bounce back when things aren't working out, which speaks to your question, your comment about failure before. The more that you recognize that you can bounce back even in the face of some adversity with renewed positivity, strength, hope that you can continue on and find a door and change your course, and that it's going to be okay. And in fact, maybe you will recognize a new sense of confidence in where you're now headed. They work together because resilience is a great bedrock opportunity for satisfaction.
Oh, I agree. I think that that's the heart of it. I think that in the world today, happiness is perhaps more elusive than ever. right? But
Mhm.
the idea that we can find satisfaction through resilience and hardiness and that sort of bounce back spirit speaks volumes. I think everybody has been challenged by that, particularly in the last, 4 to 6 years.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you look at the end of my book, I say that if you can master the 6 techniques, you achieve something that I call defiant resilience. And
Ooh.
defiant resilience is human beings' ability to believe in their ability to bounce back from adversity with renewed strength, hope, positivity. And I think that is a critical thing in your ability to believe that you're going to live a satisfied life.
And finally, the last secret is self-reinforcement and self-care, and perhaps more challenging than the other five for many of us.
Yeah, so I would agree. You said what I would have said, which is that it is the most challenging. We do not like to do that at all. We like to wait for other people to reinforce us, and we do not think that we deserve doing that on our own. It's extremely difficult for me to get my clients to follow through on doing nice things for themselves, but it's critical to do it because when you engage in challenging tasks, it's so important to create a positive feedback loop to encourage your brain to continue to want to engage in challenging tasks. The homework assignments in my book, trying to change the way that you're thinking towards satisfaction. And like you said, the new frontier, it's a different way to think. And if you want to encourage your brain to continue to change a way of thinking, then you need to reinforce it for doing that, or it's going to be like, I don't want to continue to do this, which makes reinforcing yourself for difficult things critical. But we tend to, as a society, look outside of ourselves for reinforcement, which is why this is so important. And there are reinforcers that we can do nice things for ourselves all over the place. We can make a nice meal for ourselves. We can go for a walk. We can sit on the couch and have a glass of wine, or have a hot chocolate. We can take ourselves to the movies. We can take ourselves to a game. There's a lot of things that we can do. The most important thing is that whatever we choose the reinforcer, we can do it by ourselves. It feels authentic to us. And it's not something that we would typically do, so that we recognize that it's specifically a reward for a job well done and not something that we would do all the time. One of my clients aptly said it. She said, I'm not into all of those spa treatments, but what I really want to do, because I'm proud of myself, is sit on my couch and very leisurely drink this cup of coffee.
Ooh, that is a gift. And I did jump ahead because there's one more secret before the self-reinforcement and self-care, and that is the closing tasks. And I think we should interject that into our conversation because this is also a challenge for many of us.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think closing is difficult, and I've seen so many people have a struggle with it, and it's not surprising in today's world. We have so many competing responsibilities. We have so many files open in our head. We have emails that need to be returned, phone calls that need to be answered, appointments that need to be made, and all of these things require our immediate attention. It can be paralyzing unless we have a plan on how we're going to close all of these tasks. It can be very difficult. So I mean, one of my clients had a pile of unpaid parking tickets, and she also likes to go to the movies. So we paired completing
the unpleasant with the pleasant.
Yes, exactly. Completing tasks with going to the movies. But one day she decided to just go to the movies, and as fate would have it, she came out and there was a boot on her car. And,
oh gosh.
Right. And that was a lightning moment for her, where she decided that she was not going to go to the movies anymore unless she crossed things off of her list. We all know the sense of accomplishment that we get when we complete a task that we know that we should, that's been haunting us, when we clean out the garage or we have an empty email inbox. It's really important for our sense of self-respect and competence, effectiveness in the world, and then eventual satisfaction, to have a list of things that we know need to be done. And then however we want to, that is, an honest way with ourselves, start methodically crossing things off of our list.
Well, we are nearly out of time, and I want to invite our listeners to learn more defiant resilience. I love that term. By reading Beyond Happiness, The 6 Secrets of Lifetime Satisfaction, and connect with Dr. Jennifer Guttman at her website, guttmanpsychology.com. You can find her on Facebook at Jennifer Guttman Psychologist and on Instagram at Guttman_psychology. You can find her on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube as well, but she is out there and you can get to her if you want to. Jennifer, thanks for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate you spending part of your day with me.
Oh, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I had so much fun, and thank you to all of your listeners.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on Harvesting Happiness today. This is Lisa Cypers Kamen on behalf of my guest, Dr. Jennifer Guttman, wishing you kind thoughts, kinder words, and the kindest of actions. Until next time, remember, happiness is an inside job. Happiness is your inside job. Please go out and rock your day, and remember to be kind to one another. Keep harvesting your own happiness anytime and anywhere from the comfort of wherever you are. Subscribe, listen, and share hundreds of downloadable episodes from our mental muscle toning libraries at harvestinghappinesstalkradio.com, toginet.com, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about my global consulting services, please visit harvestinghappiness.com. Spread more joy by liking us on Facebook at Harvesting Happiness and following me on Twitter at Lisa Kamen. Harvesting Happiness is produced by me, Lisa Cypers Kamen, Andrea Mungeli, Robin Boyd, Andrea Daly, and the awesome team at Podfly Productions, including Eric Begay, Kimberly Beck, and Alec Gus, in collaboration with TogiNet Radio, KBUU, RadioMalibu.net, and is available on PRX, the Public Radio Exchange.